Dear Selection Committee, we are the group named Alma meet out. Before our presentation, I'd like to ask you a question. If you are a female student, how will you feel if you notice there are fair representations of female professors and leaders in your university? I bet you will feel more courageous to break the glass ceiling in your future career as your professors do, right? That's what we want to argue about. Universities are incubators for ideas and knowledge. Thus, people, no matter they are men or women, should have the equal opportunity to participate. Especially for universities and leaders, gender diversity is essential in that female leaders would provide more diversified perspectives and minority-denominated policies, benefiting selections of students, recruitment of staff, and promoting more socially responsible atmosphere. To evaluate gender diversity in universities' leadership, the project involves 5 steps. The first step is to determine what leadership is, then to collect gender racial data. Thirdly, define model and formula to calculate grades. Fourthly, rank and compare. And the last step is to recommend how to improve gender diversity in universities and further improvement on our ranking model. Our presentation will follow the 5 steps. Now let's move to the first step, define leadership.
Okay, so we define the leadership structure into 3 levels. At the very top, it's about the president and the incumbent trustees, and then it's about the senior administrations and the academic deans. When we mention about senior administration, we say about the provost, vice presidents, executive vice presidents, and such. The academic deans are always the head of each schools. And then we move on to the third level. We divided it according to the disciplines. We have 3 disciplines, which is the social science, humanities, and natural science. The social science is about the history, economics, anthropology, and sociology, and something like that. Humanities is about the English, Asian language and cultures, and French and Romance philosophies, and something like that. The natural science is more like chemistry, mathematics, physics, psychology, statistics, and we count the chair of those chairs of departments under those 3 disciplines. And next we move on to the data collection process part, and we collect data mainly through the public info of each university and colleges, and then we define the administrative levels, and then the disciplines. And if some schools doesn't have the clear disciplines, we will clarify those based on the Columbia University standards. And then we identify their genders. We identify their genders through 2 methods. First is through their first name, and then secondly is through their photos of the candidates. Some of their photos are published on their school websites, and some of them we search it through Google. And next, we deal with the missing value, because some universities, such as the University of California system, they have different branches, such as UCLA and UC Berkeley. They don't have separate data, so we are using the average of other schools within the university system to represent them. And we also consider about the double count, because some of them have the dual positions. They are both the dean and also the high position in the senior administrations. So we will adjust those total numbers. Yeah, that's how we collect the data. Then we move on to the model side.
So after data collection, we design segmented function to calculate score. To visualize that, we give 2 benchmarks, average gender ratio and optimal ratio, which is the ideal woman representation in each level. We multiply 10 points with the gender ratio that lower than average ratio, and the part that exceed average and below optimal level, we multiply it with 20 for extra reward. For the part that exceed optimal level, we multiply it with -10 because of the over-representation of women. This function is applied to each leadership level, and optimal gender ratio is different too. We use gender ratio of PhD and master student in 3 disciplines as the optimal ratio for 3 disciplines. Average gender ratio in all disciplines is used as the optimal ratio for academic dean, etc. The final score of each school is given by 20% trustee score, 50% second level score, and 10% 3 discipline score. If the president is a woman, we will multiply the total score with 1.1. We give the higher weight to higher leadership level because we believe they have stronger influence on school gender diversity. This method gave us this ranking result. Most diverse leadership level is University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. As for Columbia University, our school total final score ranks at the number 45, and this is a ranking at each leadership level. In conclusion, our university is relatively less diverse than other 46 universities.
So now I will introduce some analytical findings. Here I use the term analytic optimal achieving rate, which is the average ratio divided by the optimal ratio from all the 47 universities, to measure how universities in average perform to the optimal target. Here is the graph for optimal and the average ratio, and the dashed line is about Columbia University. Through the chain of line and the optimal achieving rate, we can find that the variables with higher optimal ratio tend to have higher average ratio, and variables with lower optimal ratio tend to perform lower optimal achieving ratio, which means that they must work harder to achieve gender parity. Take social science as an example. The margin for improvement reach up to 50%. On the right-hand side, we try to analyze the correlation between the final score and some classification factors such as public and private school, Ivy and non-Ivy League leadership team size. We can see that there is a slight negative correlation between gender parity score and the US News ranking. The top universities tend to perform slightly better in gender diversity. Next, we regress the final score by those variables and found out that none of these variables can explain the variation in final score. US News ranking is the only one that close to significance level. Here is a detailed look at the average performance for different categories compared to the lowest and highest score. The pie chart shows the percentage of each categories. From the histogram below, we can see that there is distinct difference between public and private school, but the score in different Ivy League and leadership team size are not that different. Now I will pass to my friend to talk about the strategy part.
Okay, our strategy includes 5 components. Firstly, faculty diversity is largely enhanced by student diversity. Therefore, universities should also pay attention to student gender diversity. And university ought to take care of gender equity from the hiring stage, conducting transparent and standard hiring process and providing family-friendly policy. Promotions such as female leadership program and training is critical to assist female to be confident and qualified as leaders. Also, universities should pay attention to women's tenure track, guarantee fair evaluation and resources distribution. Lastly, universities should use the help of media to give high exposure of gender diversity and let everyone perceive its importance. Our future steps focus on improving our model by collecting and adding more relevant variables. Besides comparing current ratio, we want to assess performance in longer time frame to evaluate universities' continuous efforts. Therefore, we will include the change of ratio as one factor. Besides, we think ratio is not the only indicator. The wage and welfare of women leaders also reflect gender equity. If the data is available, we will incorporate wage discrepancies into our model. In addition, we will also evaluate each university's investment and effort on gender diversity-related policy, activity, and workshop. These qualitative factors will be added in the model as dummy variables. Hopefully, our model will be widely applied and help to improve gender diversity. And that's all of our presentation. Thank you.